Children of the Corn is a 1984 supernatural slasher film, directed by Fritz Kiesch, and is based on the short story by Stephen King. Our tale begins in the small fictitious town of Gatlin, Nebraska. After a church service, 11-year-old Joby and his dad pop into a diner for milkshakes, just like they always do after church. His dad phones home as his daughter Sarah is currently sick with a fever that has mysteriously given her the ability to draw pictures that predict the future. Joby guzzles down his massive shake, then notices that Malachi, the local screw loose, is acting shifty, and a creepy boy is lurking outside the diner. Some boys enter, locking the door behind them, and Joby suspects that some mad shit is about to go down. Of course, he is bang on the money, as the waitress pours poison into the coffee, and we watch as the patrons start to drop like flies, one by one. The treacherous teens then proceed to murder the remaining unsuspecting punters, including Joby's dad, much to the delight of the spooky boy at the window, who we find out is called Isaac. Then they bugger off, leaving Joby traumatized and splattered in blood. We are then transported 3 years forward to present day, where we see a smitten young couple canoodling in a motel room. It's Bert's birthday, so his girlfriend Vicky puts on an awkward performance for him, and we find out that he is a doctor relocating to Nebraska. They set out on their road trip, and after mocking a radio evangelist, can't help but notice that all they can see is cornfields, and more bloody cornfields. Meanwhile, Joby, and his sister Sarah, who are now orphans after all the adults in Gatlin were massacred 3 years earlier, are sneaking around an old farmhouse. Their friend Joseph has decided he's had enough of life in Gatlin, especially now that it is ruled by zealous teenagers, and plans to run away. Joby and Sarah want to escape too, but Joseph thinks they'll just slow him down, so he grabs his possessions, and runs into the cornfields. Not long into his great escape, he encounters Malachi, remember, that kid from the diner, and is reminded why it is forbidden to try and leave Gatlin. Bert and Vicky take their eyes off the road for a split second whilst looking for directions, then wham! Bye-bye Joseph. To be fair, he was just standing in the middle of the road. The couple are naturally devastated. Killing a child wasn't on their to-do list for that day, but after Bert examines Joseph's body, he realizes the lad's throat had been cut before he turned him into roadkill. He chucks Joseph's body into the trunk, then they head back out to find anyone who can help. After talking to an unhelpful surly mechanic, their search continues, but all the road signs keep pointing to Gatlin. They drive around in circles until finally agreeing that Gatlin is their new destination. Surely, there must be someone there who can lend them a hand. Once in Gatlin, they realize the whole place is a ghost town, and after they search for a phone in the rat-infested diner that staged the horrific events of the past, they leave to find some pesky kids tampering with their motor. The couple chase down the scythe-wielding whippersnappers, but lose them, until they see some movement in a nearby building. In true horror movie fashion, they let themselves into the abandoned house, where they find Sarah, and her macabre illustrations. She tells them about the plight of Gatlin, but Bert decides to keep looking for help, whilst Vicky stays to admire Sarah's peculiar premonitions. As soon as Bert is out the picture, Malachi, and his evil troop of deadly adolescents, kidnap Vicky, and present her to Isaac, their wicked leader. So there we have it. A couple of out-of-towners who get out of their depth whilst off the beaten track. A red-haired psychopath, who strikes fear into the hearts of a group of indoctrinated children. And a pint-sized preacher with a messiah complex. Will Bert and Vicky find their way out of Gatlin, and escape the zealous cult that bay for their blood? Will we ever see he, who walks behind the rose, if he even exists? And was anybody actually seriously scared of this Bible-bashing little twerp? If I was his dad, he would be grounded for a month. Children of the Corn is a fairly entertaining, slow-burning slasher flick, that is designed with the sole intention of showing the untold monstrous potential of impressionable children, once they are left to their own devices. And like a Bible Belt Lord of the Flies, it succeeds in doing this, by establishing its sinister plot from the get-go. It's violent, it's gory, and there's enough religious rhetoric packed into its 90-minute runtime to convince us that these children will kill for their almighty leader, and they should not be underestimated. The performances, for the most part, were adequate, but that's what you sometimes get with child actors. However, it was particularly terrifying to see them chanting "kill, kill, kill," as Linda Hamilton screamed whilst tied to a corn cob crucifix. Personally, I wasn't convinced by the character of Isaac, who was supposedly the evil villain of this movie. He seemed a bit wimpy for my liking. Malachi, on the other hand, played by Courtney Gaines, was by far the scariest character in the movie, and apparently gave viewers nightmares when this was released in 1984. My mind was blown when I found out that Isaac, played by John Franklin, played Cousin It in the Addams Family movies. Who would have thought that under that long luscious wig was a demonic fruitcake? The special effects were few and far between, but what we did see looked like they were created on Microsoft Paint. And a cornfield was the real antagonist of the movie. Really, a cornfield, it didn't really do it for me, despite the leaves coming to life. Children of the Corn is definitely a dark and satanic horror movie, but I can't help feel that if a town full of adults had actually been slaughtered by a bloodthirsty cult of murderous minors, somebody would have noticed, and done something about it before 3 years had the chance to fly by. But hey, that's horror movies. You have to suspend your disbelief once in a while. Give this one a watch if you want to be freaked out by freaky kids, but otherwise, you might be disappointed if you're looking for a tense, horrifying thriller. So what did you make of this movie? Did it shake you to the core with fear? Or leave you really craving a delicious corn on the cob? Let me know in the comments below, and give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Also, why not subscribe if you have nothing better to do than watch my silly little videos? It really means a lot. Until then, be good to each other, take care, and please don't go wandering into any cornfields. You never know who, or what, you may find in there. Cheers, babes.